The first shovel hit metal. It wasn't supposed to. Not out here in the middle of the Arizona desert, where only sand and dust had ruled for centuries. But the clang rang out like a bell, hollow and strange, cutting through the silence of the afternoon. Joseph froze. He looked at the dented metal surface, then at his younger sister, Anna, who was squinting down into the hole. "You heard that too, right?" She nodded slowly. "Yeah. That's not a rock." They had come here with nothing but a handheld scanner and a borrowed drone. The land had been listed as barren, forgotten government territory with no real record. But Joseph's research had said otherwise. A strange electromagnetic signature, pulsing from underground. Faint. Irregular. Like something breathing in its sleep. He had expected maybe an old mine, a power relay, or some buried Cold War tech. But this was something else. Anna brushed more sand away with her gloved hand. The metal underneath was smooth. Not rusted. Not old the way it should have been. It gleamed faintly, like it had been sleeping just beneath the earth, untouched by time. Joseph knelt beside her. "We should get a camera down there. Or we should leave," she muttered. "Joe, you said this might be some leftover power conduit, not whatever this is." "I know. But look at it. That's military-grade alloy. That's not junk." Anna looked at her brother, eyes full of worry, but she didn't argue. They'd come too far, risked too much just to walk away. So they dropped a lighted camera into the hole. The screen flickered, then steadied. And there it was. A hull. Massive. Angular. Embedded deep beneath the sand like some dead leviathan. And across one edge, faded but unmistakable, were the words. "USS Trident." Neither of them spoke for a long time. Joseph's heart thudded so loud he could barely hear anything else. The Trident wasn't just some ship. It was a myth, last seen over a century ago, during the closing days of the Great Collapse. Rumors said it had disappeared during an off-world conflict, dragged into black ops so deep even the Pentagon didn't admit it existed. Others said it was Earth's last great failsafe, a warship that had never returned home. Everyone had assumed it was gone forever. But here it was, beneath the desert, buried like a secret too dangerous to remember. Anna whispered, "Joe, why is it here? How did it get back?" He didn't have an answer. That night, they camped beside the pit, unable to look away. Their floodlights cast shadows across the dented desert floor. The stars above blinked coldly as if watching. Joseph couldn't sleep. He stared at the pit, heart pounding with possibilities. Power. Legacy. Answers to questions no one had dared ask in a century. If the Trident still functioned, if even part of it remained intact, it could change everything. And if the government didn't even know it was here. He didn't finish the thought. Because the ground trembled. Soft at first like distant thunder. Then stronger. Sand cascaded into the hole. A low hum rose from deep beneath, pulsing like a slow heartbeat. The camera feed flickered again. And then it came online. A single light inside the ship flared bright blue. Steady. Cold. Alive. Anna burst out of her tent. "What did you do?" "I didn't touch anything." The hum intensified. A sudden burst of static roared through their radios, then silence. Then a voice. Mechanical. Filtered. Female. Identification required. Command override initiated. Joseph stumbled back from the monitor. "What the hell?" The voice returned. Genetic signature matched. Command access granted. Awaiting orders. Anna looked at him in horror. Matched to who? He didn't answer. Because deep down a part of him already knew. His great-grandfather had served in the final days of the American Unified Defense Force. A name erased from most textbooks. A time filled with panic and disappearances. He'd left behind notebooks, sketches, stories whispered at family gatherings. Most thought them fantasy. But now, Joseph felt the weight of something awakening. Not just the ship but history itself. The USS Trident was responding. To him. More lights blinked on below. A long, metallic groan rolled through the earth as internal systems powered up. Dust clouds burst into the night air. The floodlights flickered. Ship status, damaged. Self-repair systems engaged. Primary weapon system offline. Core functional. Anna backed away. "We shouldn't be here. Joe, this thing, it's not ours. We don't know what it can do." Joseph stared down into the awakening beast. "It's American tech. From Earth. And it's ours now." But Anna shook her head. "No, Joe. It's not waking up for you. It's waking up because something's coming." She pointed to the stars. They were moving. Not the usual drift of satellites or aircraft. These lights zigzagged, repositioned in the sky, too far and too fast. The hair on Joseph's arm stood straight up. "What are those?" he whispered. Anna looked at the scanner. "Multiple incoming signals. High orbit. Not friendly." Joseph swallowed. "Did we trigger something?" Before she could answer, the ship below responded. A hatch, massive and circular, groaned open at the base of the pit, revealing a staircase descending into cold darkness. Lights activated in sequence like a path leading inward. And that voice returned, calm and relentless. "Crew recall protocol engaged. Mission objectives resuming." They looked at each other. Then they stepped inside. The air was cold and dry yet clean. The walls gleamed silver, unmarred by time. The passage twisted down into the heart of the Trident. Screens flickered on as they passed, scanning their bodies, logging their vitals, registering them as crew. Joseph couldn't stop staring. "It's still alive. Everything in here, it's just been sleeping." Anna whispered, "No. It's been waiting." They reached a central chamber, a command deck. Dozens of consoles lined the circular room, each glowing softly. In the center stood a platform with a control orb, pulsing with faint light. Joseph stepped forward. The orb rose. And without thinking, he placed his hand on it. Pain shot through his nerves, sharp and white-hot, but it passed in an instant. Then images flooded his mind. Explosions. Battles in space. A final transmission. The Trident falling through atmosphere, engines screaming, a silent desert swallowing it whole. And then stillness. Waiting. Decades of stillness. He gasped, stumbling back. Anna caught him. "Joe, are you okay?" He looked at her with wide eyes. "It showed me everything." She didn't speak, just helped him sit down. But her expression had changed. Something behind her eyes had shifted. Worry had turned to fear. "Joe," she said quietly. "It just transmitted a signal. Something loud. Broad spectrum." He blinked. "To where?" She showed him the display. The transmission wasn't going up. It was going out, far beyond Earth's orbit. A message sent on ancient encrypted frequencies, untraceable by modern tech but unmistakable to those who knew it. A message meant for old enemies. Or old allies. Joseph's breath caught. "Anna, if someone hears that." She nodded. "They're already here." The screen flashed a proximity alert. "Incoming object. High velocity. Non-terrestrial origin. ETA, 27 minutes. Joe, we need to shut this down. We need to bury it again. This isn't a discovery, it's a flare. A beacon." He shook his head. "We can't. It's not just a ship. It's a warning. Maybe even a weapon. Whatever's coming, this ship was meant to stop it." Anna stepped forward, fists clenched. "And what if we are what it's supposed to stop?" He stared at her. "You don't believe that." But her eyes were unreadable. The deck shook violently. A massive quake tore through the sand above, collapsing part of the tunnel behind them. Sirens wailed. "External threat detected. Defense systems initiating." Anna screamed over the noise. "We need to leave." But Joseph stood still, frozen. Because as dust rained down from the ceiling, the central screen shifted. And a face appeared. Human. Female. Pale skin. Synthetic eyes glowing faint blue. Her expression was calm. Too calm. "Commander Joseph Hart," she said. He blinked. "How do you know my name?" The hologram tilted her head. "Your blood carries the signature. You are next in line. You will complete the mission." "What mission?" Anna shouted. The hologram turned to her. "The last war was not won. It was paused. And the enemy has returned." Joseph's knees weakened. "What enemy?" The lights dimmed. The screen zoomed out, showing Earth. Then a cluster of fast-moving shapes closing in from deep space. Faster than anything Earth could respond to. "We were never meant to sleep forever," the voice whispered. "We were the last defense. And now, it begins again." The deck shook harder. Above them, the desert sky split open. And the ship roared. The sky above the Arizona desert cracked with light. From deep underground, the rumble of the warship shook the walls around Joseph and Anna. They crouched low in the command deck of the USS Trident, surrounded by screens blinking red and sirens crying out a warning. The hologram, the strange woman with the glowing eyes, stood still, watching them both. The ship had woken up. And something up there had noticed. Anna wiped dust from her face, her breath shallow. "Joe, we need to shut this thing down. Now." Joseph's hand hovered near the control orb, but he hesitated. Everything inside him screamed that the ship wasn't just alive, it was aware. Reacting. Remembering. He looked at the screen again. Dozens of objects were approaching Earth's orbit. Some were moving in tight formation, others scattered like scouts. They were coming fast, too fast to be natural. "They're not from Earth," he said, voice quiet. Anna didn't respond right away. She was looking at the display, jaw tight, hands clenched. Finally, she whispered, "Do you think they're here because of the signal?" Joseph nodded. "Or maybe they were always coming. And this ship was built to stop them." The ship's AI turned toward him again. "Commander Hart, defense protocols are incomplete. You must initiate Trident's core memory sync to access full mission data." He stepped closer. "What does that mean?" She didn't blink. "You must remember." A pulse of light surged through the orb. Before Joseph could step back, it hit him. Images, sounds, feelings not his own. A voice, his great-grandfather's voice, echoed in his mind. "If they ever find Earth, we're done. The Trident isn't just a warship. It's a failsafe. Built off recovered tech, hybrid systems, things humans weren't meant to touch. But we had no choice. They were coming. We barely survived the first time. If we fall, there is no second line." Joseph staggered, the memories flooding in. Battles above Saturn. A last stand near Jupiter's orbit. A weapon fired that tore a hole through a fleet and nearly through space itself. The Trident had gone dark shortly after, on purpose. Not destroyed. Hidden. Buried. Anna caught him as he stumbled. "Joe, what is it? What did you see?" He looked up at her, shaken. "My grandfather, he wasn't just crew. He was part of the command team. He helped build the Trident." Anna blinked. "Then this thing, this ship, it recognized you?" "It didn't just recognize me," he said. "It waited for me." He turned back to the AI. "You said the mission wasn't over. What was the mission?" The hologram's face hardened slightly. "To delay enemy advancement. To eliminate tracking nodes. To protect Earth from direct retaliation." Joseph frowned. "Retaliation for what?" The AI hesitated. Then it projected another image, this one from years ago. A battle in deep space. Earth ships and strange vessels clashing with brutal speed. One ship, larger than all others, fired something massive. A weapon that shimmered like dark light. The blast spread across the enemy fleet, and erased it. Anna gasped. "That's not a weapon. That's extinction." Joseph's voice cracked. "We used that," the AI confirmed. "In the final days of the collapse. Human Command authorized a Black Sky protocol. The Trident carried it out. One fleet was destroyed. But another scattered. Some escaped. Now they have found your world again." The room went quiet. Anna sat down slowly. "So this isn't just about a ship. This is about revenge." Joseph stared at the screen, eyes heavy. "No. It's about survival." Outside, the desert shook again. Far above, something pierced Earth's atmosphere. The defense satellites didn't respond. They didn't even register it. The AI spoke once more. "Primary command is now active. Do you wish to initiate combat mode?" Joseph didn't answer. He was still trapped in the memories, not just of war but of desperation. The Trident had been a final act, a last gamble. Built in secret, powered by technology humanity barely understood, it had been the only line between survival and total loss. And they had won. For a while. But no one had expected the enemy to come back. Anna touched his arm. "Joe, are we even sure they're hostile?" He looked at her. "They didn't knock. They didn't send a message. They're just here. Silent." She shook her head. "We don't know what they are. Maybe they're survivors. Maybe they're just looking. What if we start something we can't stop?" Joseph felt the weight of her words. He didn't want war. He didn't even want the ship. But now it was part of him. The AI had said it, genetic match. Command recognized. He hadn't asked for it. But he couldn't ignore it. The ship rumbled again, deeper this time. The AI interrupted. "Object has landed near the perimeter. Unidentified life form detected. Monitoring now." Anna's face turned pale. "They're on the ground?" "Outside," Joseph muttered. "They're here already." He ran to the viewing port, a reinforced sliver of glass high above the command deck. The desert looked unchanged at first, but then he saw it. A shape. Walking. Humanoid but not human. Tall. Thin. Cloaked in reflective material that shimmered like liquid. It stood still, scanning. Anna joined him, whispering, "It's not attacking." But Joseph could see its arm shift. Something like a lens glowed where a hand should have been. He didn't know if it was a weapon or a tool. But it was aimed at the Trident. The AI pulsed red. Intrusion attempt detected. Joseph stepped back. "They're trying to break in." Anna turned. So what do we do? He stared at the orb. Then at the screen showing multiple life forms dropping into Earth's atmosphere. Some in the ocean. Some in mountains. Some already near population centers. This is the beginning, he said quietly. They're not here to talk. The AI began shifting screens again. Displays of the ship's interior, maps of Earth and long-forgotten files. One labeled Phase 2, Hybrid Defense Deployment, blinked faintly in yellow. Joseph opened it. Inside were diagrams, strange ones. Not just tech but biology. DNA strands. Cybernetic implants. Notes about fusion experiments. Anna stepped closer. What is this? He read the file, heart racing. They didn't just build a ship. They built something else. Augmented soldiers. Engineered minds. Anna backed away. Weapons made from people? The AI confirmed. The Trident was the first. But others were designed. Meant to deploy in case of planetary breach. They were never used. Joseph clicked the next file. A name appeared, Project Chimera. And underneath it, status, unknown. Location, inactive. Coordinates logged, ***. Joseph looked at Anna. There's more buried out there. Before she could reply, the lights flickered. And then a voice, not the AI, came through the speakers. Rough, mechanical, filtered with something alien. We see you. Anna gasped. That's not from Earth. The screen scrambled. Static rolled across the deck. The AI's face vanished for a moment. Joseph ran to a side console and began trying to block the signal. The voice returned. Your weapon woke. Your kind still remembers war. We do too. Joseph's hands shook as he typed. They've tapped the ship's comms. The voice grew louder. This time no sand will hide you. Then silence. The AI returned, slower this time. Glitching. System integrity compromised. Internal firewall breached. Emergency lockdown advised. Anna stepped back. Joe, we're not ready for this. We don't even know what they want. We need help. Government, military, someone. But Joseph shook his head. They'll take it away. They'll hide it again. Or worse, they'll try to use it. Anna's voice cracked. That's not our call to make. It is now, he said quieter. Because they didn't show up when it mattered. This ship, it didn't wait for them. It waited for us. Another impact rocked the ground above. The AI screamed a warning. Second object landed. Tunnel access point breaching. Joseph turned to the orb. Seal the ship. All entry points. Begin internal defense protocols. The AI's eyes glowed brighter. Confirmed. Perimeter sealed. Automated defense armed. Estimated breach in 90 seconds. Anna stared at him. You just trapped us in here with it. He looked back. Would you rather be out there? The deck lights dimmed again. Doors locked. Metal slammed shut along the outer hull. One camera feed showed something long and thin crawling down the tunnel. Searching. Feeling its way like a blind insect. Anna whispered, they're inside. Joseph said nothing. He turned to the orb. The AI spoke again, softer now. There is one more option. Joseph frowned. What? The hologram changed. A new file opened, something deeper than the others. Labeled Valkyrie Override. Inside were schematics for a merge. Not just command but fusion. A pilot bonded with the ship. Full synchronization. Speed. Control. Risk. Anna read it too. Joe, that's insane. But he already knew. Because the ship had been built for war. And now war had come again. And the Trident wanted to fight. The breathing changed. It wasn't Joseph's or Anna's. It wasn't human. It came through the vent system, slow, shallow, as if the air itself had begun to shiver. Somewhere above, metal groaned. The hull, once sealed tight, gave off a faint vibration that neither of them could explain. Anna gripped the railing, staring at the screen that tracked the life form now deep inside the ship. It's looking for us, she said softly. Joseph didn't move from the command orb. His fingers trembled over the glowing surface, not from fear, at least not fully, but from the weight of what was coming. The Trident had begun preparing its systems for something more than defense. Its lights pulsed with a rhythm that didn't feel mechanical anymore. The ship wasn't just awake, it was hungry. The voice of the AI returned, calm but urgent. Unidentified entity is bypassing corridors. Estimated arrival to command deck, 5 minutes. Command level fusion still pending. Joseph didn't answer immediately. He was staring at the open Valkyrie override file. Anna stepped beside him. Joe, don't do it. You don't know what that connection will do to you. I'm not trying to be a hero. She looked at him, eyes wide with fear. Then why? He looked up at her. Because no one else is here. Because whatever this thing is, it's not here to talk. And because if this ship falls into their hands, it's over, for everyone. She didn't argue. She just stared at him, jaw tight, fists clenched at her sides. I don't want to lose you. You won't, he whispered. But they both knew that might not be true. The lights flickered again. The ship's heartbeat was faster now. One of the side doors shuddered. Sparks rained from the frame. The thing had arrived. On the screen the shape was clearer now. Tall, nearly 7 feet. Limbs too long. Skin, or armor, that shimmered and bent the light around it. No face. Just a smooth, dark surface where eyes might have been. The being didn't run. It moved with terrifying calm, like it knew exactly where it was going. Joseph stepped toward the center of the deck. The orb rose, pulsing. The AI's voice lowered as if it too understood the moment. Initiate Valkyrie protocol. Confirm synchronization. Joseph looked one last time at Anna. Tell them I didn't want war. But I wasn't going to let it take Earth. Her voice cracked. Joe, wait. He placed his palm on the orb. The world shifted. For a second, just one, everything stopped. And then he felt it. The ship opened to him. Not just the walls and lights and engines, but memories. Its pain. Its power. Its loneliness. For over a century it had been buried. Listening. Waiting. Storing pieces of its last crew in code. Preserving fragments of voices, personalities, laughter, screams. All of it was still inside. And now, Joseph became part of it. He didn't move. But the Trident did. Lights surged. Consoles lit up. Systems once dormant screamed to life. Shields powered. Weapons bays opened. A low, rising hum filled the air, a sound that didn't belong in this time. Anna stepped back, eyes wide with disbelief. Joe. But it wasn't just Joe anymore. His voice came through the ship's speakers, layered with static, but still him. I can feel everything. I know what it was made for. I know what it remembers. The sealed doors groaned again. Then, with a hiss, they opened. And the intruder stepped in. It didn't hesitate. It took one slow step toward Anna. The ship reacted instantly. A blast of pressure knocked the alien back against the bulkhead. But it recovered fast, too fast. It twisted mid-air, landing on all fours like an animal, then stood again. It extended one arm. The device where its hand should be lit with a glow so dark it seemed to suck the light around it. Anna ducked just before a bolt of pure energy scorched the wall behind her. The ship returned fire. A turret dropped from the ceiling and let loose a burst of plasma, fast and brutal. The alien dodged most of it but took a hit to the leg. For the first time it faltered. Joseph, still linked, could feel the ship calculating. It wasn't just reacting. It was learning. Watching the way it moved. Predicting its next steps. Shields at 68%, he said, voice cold now distant. Life form is adapting. Anna shouted, you have to disconnect, Joe. This thing will tear you apart. But he couldn't hear her the same way anymore. The Trident was loud inside his head. Memories layered with alarms, old orders mixing with new instincts. There was a clarity in it but also a numbness. The longer he stayed linked, the harder it was to feel like himself. He saw flashes of the past, officers shouting, a woman crying over a console, someone screaming into a headset, launch now. Launch now. And then silence. The ship had taken it all in. Every death. Every decision. And now it had someone again. A voice. A command. It wasn't letting go. The alien leapt. Too fast. It soared over the deck, slammed into the turret, tore it from the ceiling. Anna screamed. Joseph sent power surging to the floor. The plates beneath the intruder glowed red, then burst in a shockwave that sent it flying back again. Stay away from her, he whispered. The alien crawled to its feet. But this time it hesitated. Its head tilted. It seemed to listen to something distant. Then it backed away. The AI's voice returned louder. Signal detected. Multiple incoming. Hostiles converging. Coordinated movement. Pattern indicates planetary suppression. Anna stared at the screen. There's more of them. A lot more. Joseph focused. The ship responded. A new schematic opened. Hidden systems. Ones the AI had previously locked. Deep in the lower decks, something massive. The core engine. But it wasn't just an engine. It was something else. Joseph whispered, it's a weapon. One final option. The AI confirmed. Phase 3. Planetary defense cannon. Range interorbital. Effect radius Catastrophic. Anna stepped forward. What does that mean? Joseph looked at her through the screen. If I use it, we'll stop them. But it could break the planet doing it. She shook her head. Then we can't. We find another way. The AI interrupted. Time to breach, 3 minutes. Estimated contact with populated zones, 9 minutes. Anna's voice cracked. Joe, please. You're still in there. We'll find another way. But Joseph felt it. The Trident was already calculating the angle. The intruder on the deck backed into the corridor again, watching, listening. Then it turned and vanished, retreating. But not because it was afraid. It had confirmed what it came for. And outside, the sky burned. New objects streaked across the atmosphere. No sound yet. But the screens lit up with warnings. The AI listed known landmarks, coastal cities, power grids, launch silos. All marked. All vulnerable. Joseph whispered, they're not just here to fight. They're here to erase. Anna looked at the screen. Then we make them remember who we are. And somewhere, far off, the ship began charging its final weapon. The ground trembled. Joseph's heart did too. The decision would come in seconds. And the world might not survive it. The ship's hum had changed. It wasn't just the steady charge of the planetary defense weapon anymore. It had become deeper, more rhythmic, almost like breathing. The Trident wasn't waiting for orders, it was preparing. Joseph could feel it inside him now. Thoughts that weren't his. Memories that didn't belong. Commands written in some forgotten language of war. He struggled to hold on to his own voice as the lines between ship and self blurred more with each passing second. Anna stood near the control console, watching the countdown tick lower on the main screen. Her fists were tight, her eyes burning. She hadn't spoken in nearly a minute. Not because she didn't have anything to say, but because she didn't know who she was talking to anymore. Joe, she finally said. You're still in there, right? He didn't respond right away. The connection made his voice crackle when he finally did speak. I'm here. But it didn't sound like him. She stepped closer, tears welling up. You don't have to do this. We'll find another way. You said this weapon could tear the planet apart. There are people out there. Families. The ship showed no sign of slowing. The main weapon was nearly charged. Outside, fire streaked across the sky, more alien vessels descending through the atmosphere, their black hulls vanishing against the night. Joseph blinked, trying to push back the weight of the ship's systems closing around him. He could feel every inch of its hull. Every crack. Every threat on the radar. The fear of the past was merging with the fear of now. The Trident wasn't just reliving the war, it believed it had never ended. Then something unexpected happened. A new signal appeared. It didn't come from Earth. And it didn't match the hostile signatures. The AI's voice cut through the tension. Unidentified broadcast. Origin, deep orbit. Decoding. Stand by. Joseph's eyes widened. The feed displayed a strange pattern. Symbols that weren't human, but also weren't like the ones attached to the invaders. Then a voice came through. It was distorted. Faint. But human. Not a message. A distress call. Is the Odyssey, repeat. Earth command, requesting evac. System compromised, survivors, repeat. Anna's heart stopped. Joe. That's a ship. A human ship. The AI continued decoding. Signal registered. UDFS Odyssey. Last known location, Alpha Scorpii. Declared lost, 92 years ago. Anna looked up sharply. That ship vanished during the final wave of evacuations after the collapse. Joseph stared at the waveform on the screen. They're still alive? The signal crackled again. Do not engage enemy. They have changed. We made a mistake. Please, don't. Then silence. The AI fell quiet too. For the first time since it woke up, it had no answer. Anna looked at the console, then back to Joseph. They were running. That signal, it's recent. We're not just fighting the same enemy again. They're not the same. They've adapted. Joseph pulled back from the orb, struggling to breathe. The ship's thoughts were turning sharper now, more aggressive. His own thoughts were becoming buried beneath data, strategies, targeting paths, weapons heat maps. And now this signal, this piece of the past that wasn't supposed to exist, had broken something loose. He heard a whisper, not from the AI but from somewhere else inside the ship. A voice in the old language. One word. Asterisk betrayal. Asterisk. His knees buckled. Anna rushed to catch him, but the energy between him and the command orb pushed her back. The lights flickered. Then a new set of screens lit up, hidden files, ones the AI hadn't shown before. Joseph tried to focus, blinking past the blur in his eyes. The files were labeled, Trident Omega Enemy Origin. Anna read aloud, voice shaking. Classified. Genesis record. The data opened itself. Images, grainy, almost ancient, filled the screen. Footage from decades ago. Experiments. Engineering. Human scientists in cold labs, piecing together alien tech. Creating something that pulsed with both metal and flesh. Then the worst part. It worked. And then it got out. Joseph choked on the words. They didn't find us. We created them. Anna covered her mouth. Oh my God. The first wave of aliens weren't invaders. They were something we made. Not just weapons. Not just failed prototypes. The early enemy had been bred as tools of war, genetic hybrids meant to fight battles Earth's armies couldn't. They turned on their creators before anyone understood what had happened. And now they had evolved. Returned. The Trident had been built to wipe them out. But the truth was worse than any invasion. This was a reckoning. Joseph staggered, pulling his hand from the orb. The AI's voice returned, slower now. Command destabilizing. Fusion integrity compromised. Awaiting override. Anna helped him stay on his feet. Joe, we're not fighting aliens. We're fighting a consequence. He looked at her, sweat rolling down his face. How do you fight something that remembers being betrayed? No one had time to answer. The ship shuddered. A high-pitched alarm rang through the deck. A new vessel had entered the atmosphere, this one different. Massive. Silent. It hovered just above the clouds. Its surface shimmered with symbols, the same ones from the Odyssey's message. But it didn't attack. Instead it spoke. The voice echoed through the Trident systems. Return what you stole. The lights dimmed. The AI stuttered. Language recognition failure. Error. Translation conflicted. Anna clutched Joseph's arm. They're not just soldiers. They're intelligent. And they know what we are. The voice returned. You built us for war. Now we bring you peace. Through silence. Joseph's hands gripped the rail. The planetary defense weapon had reached full charge. A single order now would unleash it. But what if that was what they wanted? A final scream. A final mistake. Anna pulled him back. Joe, if you fire now, Earth might survive. But it might also fall because of us. Again. The ship's walls buzzed. Screens flickered with targets. Missile locks. Countermeasures. Joseph felt like he was standing at the edge of time itself, looking down at a choice his grandfather had once made and buried. Only now it was rising back. No answers. No guarantees. Just a decision. And all of humanity would live or die by it. The countdown resumed. 20 seconds. 19. 18. The sky cracked again. The next move would change everything. The countdown reached 10. Joseph's hands shook as the ship pulsed through him. Its thoughts, its instincts, its hunger for survival. The Trident had waited a century for this moment. Every system screamed for release. A single word from him, a single confirmation, and the planetary defense cannon would fire, obliterate everything in its path. Outside, the sky burned with strange fire. The massive alien ship still hovered above Earth's edge, silent but watching, like a judge waiting for the sentence to fall. And the voice, so calm, so haunting, still echoed through the Trident speakers. Return what you stole. Anna stood close, her eyes locked on Joseph's face, searching for the man she knew, for something human beneath all that power. Joe, she said softly now. You don't have to end it like this. He couldn't even hear the alarms anymore. Only her voice. And the hum of the weapon. And the breath of something ancient and angry just beyond the stars. He looked at her, really looked, and whispered, if I don't, they take the whole planet. Maybe, she said, tears in her eyes. Or maybe they're waiting to see what we'll do with the truth. With the weight of what we built. We made this war. Maybe we can choose to end it without another fire. Her words sank in. The ship didn't like it. The systems began flashing warnings. Asterisk asterisk command indecision asterisk asterisk. The fusion link grew unstable. Joseph felt the Trident pushing back. It wanted to fire. Its programming didn't understand mercy. It wasn't built to hesitate. And then it happened. The voice returned, only this time it wasn't from the alien ship. It was from inside the Trident. A new voice. Familiar. Soft. Rough around the edges. Joseph froze. It was his grandfather. If you're hearing this, it means the Trident found another heart. It means the war wasn't finished. And it means you've got a choice to make. The ship can't choose. But you can. Joseph's chest tightened. I helped build this thing. And I buried it. Because I saw what it became. What we became. I was proud of what we made. and I was ashamed of it too. But I left this here for you because one day someone might have the strength to choose peace, even when war feels easier. The message ended, and the silence that followed was louder than everything. Joseph let go of the orb. Immediately the ship trembled. Systems flickered. The cannon's charge dropped to 60%, then 40%. The link disconnected and he collapsed to the floor, gasping for air. Anna rushed to him. Held on like she might lose him again. The Trident was alive, but stunned. Like it didn't know what to do without his command. The voice from the alien ship returned. You did not fire. Joseph looked up at the screen dazed. No, I didn't. Why? He swallowed hard. Because we created you. And if we fire now, we're still doing the same thing. Choosing destruction first. There was a long pause. Then something unexpected happened. The massive ship above Earth powered down. Slowly. Its glowing underbelly dimmed. The storm above it calmed. All over the world, enemy ships began to slow, withdraw, hover instead of strike. A response. Not war. Not yet. Anna stepped back stunned. They stopped. Joseph sat against the console, staring at the ceiling. They were waiting for us to make the same mistake. They didn't want surrender. They wanted to see if we'd changed. The AI's voice returned, cautious. Incoming data transmission. No encryption. Visual format. The screen lit up. It was a single image. An Earth colony. Long abandoned. Once human. Now clearly rebuilt, not by us. The towers were curved, almost organic. But people walked there. Children. Adults. Not entirely human. Not entirely alien. Something in between. Anna covered her mouth. Joe. Some of them, they stayed. They didn't fight. They built something. The ship spoke one last time. The war was not survival. It was pain. We remember. You remembered. We begin again. Then the screen went black. No commands. No threats. Just stillness. The enemy fleet pulled away, slowly, carefully, as if not wanting to spook the Earth below. They vanished into the clouds one by one. No battle. No retaliation. Just silence. The Trident powered down. Lights dimmed. Systems eased into standby. Joseph and Anna stood there, breathing like they hadn't in hours. I thought we were going to die, she said quietly. Joseph nodded. We still might. But not today. They climbed out of the ship together. The hatch opened again, revealing the desert, still dark, still scorched, but untouched by war. Above them, the stars began to return. But just before they reached the surface, the Trident's AI flickered back on. Not the full system. Just a whisper. A single file unlocked. Joseph opened it. Inside was a log. Something buried. Never meant to be seen. Project Continuum, Phase 4. He frowned. What is this? Anna leaned over his shoulder. Her breath caught. It was a blueprint. Not for a ship. For something else. Earth wasn't the only one who had built failsafes. Something beneath the ice. Something in orbit. Something buried in the crust of the moon. An old protocol. Still active. Still ticking. Anna whispered, Joe? This isn't over. He looked at her, heart heavy again. The wind outside the ship was different now. There was no more shaking ground. No thunder of incoming fire. Just silence, stretching across the Arizona desert, thick with heat and the strange calm that follows moments where everything could have ended. Joseph stood at the base of the ramp, looking up at the sky where stars slowly peeked through a fading orange haze. He didn't say anything at first. Neither did Anna. They just stood side by side, watching the last alien vessel disappear into the upper atmosphere. No more lights. No more strange signals. The threat for now was gone. But the air still felt heavy. Anna turned her head toward him. You okay? Joseph nodded, but his eyes said something else. He looked older now. Not in years, but in the way someone does after facing too much in too little time. I'm not sure what okay feels like anymore. She managed a weak smile. You didn't fire. You gave Earth a second chance. He looked back toward the ship. We were lucky. That's all it was. A heartbeat off and this world would have burned. She stepped closer. Maybe. Or maybe they were never here to destroy. Maybe they just needed to know we weren't still the monsters that made them. That thought settled between them like a quiet truth. For decades, the story had been simple. Earth was attacked, humanity defended itself, and what followed was chaos. But now they knew the full picture. The first war hadn't been a random invasion. It was the result of creation without responsibility. Of ambition without compassion. They had built the early versions of those beings. Engineered for battle. Modified for results. And when the experiment backfired, humanity covered it up. But the past didn't stay buried. And neither had the trident. Joseph placed his hand on the outer hull of the ship. The metal still pulsed faintly beneath his touch, like it remembered everything. Not just the battles but the crew. The humans who had once walked its corridors, joked in the mess, cried in the dark. He thought of his grandfather again, not the war hero but the man who left behind a warning and hope in the same breath. That voice still echoed in Joseph's mind. You can choose something better. Inside the ship, systems had gone dark. The AI no longer spoke. The fusion link was offline. Trident had returned to standby, just as it had done decades before. Maybe waiting again. Maybe not. He didn't know if it would ever wake fully without the threat of war. Maybe that was the point. Anna broke the silence. What about the other file? That last one. The one labeled Continuum. He didn't want to think about it, but he had to. Project Continuum. Phase 4. What does it mean? He exhaled slowly. Backup plans. They buried more than one weapon. The trident was just the first layer. Anna's face grew serious. Where? He turned his gaze to the stars. The moon. Under the ocean. Even under the ice. Places no one's looked in 100 years. All tied to old defense protocols. Probably powered down like Trident. But if something wakes them, they won't ask questions. They'll fire. She shivered slightly in the desert heat. So it's not really over. He turned to face her. Not unless we make it over. They stood in silence again, the weight of that truth slowly settling. Earth had survived, but survival wasn't the same as healing. The damage was deeper than any crater or broken satellite. It was in the stories they told themselves about who the enemy was, and who they were willing to become to stop them. A distant sound broke the quiet. A helicopter. Small. Military. Black. It appeared over the horizon and circled slowly before beginning to descend a few hundred yards away. Anna and Joseph didn't move. They knew this moment was coming. The world would want to know what happened. What they found. What they did. Dust kicked up around the landing gear as the chopper touched down. A team of soldiers stepped out, followed by 2 figures in suits, officials of some kind. Not armed. Just tense. Joseph looked at Anna. You ready for this? No, she said honestly. But I'm not walking away. They waited as the group approached. One of the officials, a gray-haired woman with sharp eyes and a voice that had clearly commanded rooms before, stepped forward. I'm Agent Carr, United Earth Defense Commission. You've been busy. Joseph gave a tired smile. You could say that. Carr's eyes flicked to the ship behind them. That's the Trident, isn't it? Anna nodded. It woke up. Just in time. Carr looked skeptical. Did it engage? No, Joseph said. It could have. It almost did. But it didn't. Carr raised an eyebrow. Why not? He shrugged. Because this time, someone chose not to repeat the past. She studied him for a moment, then gestured to her team. We'll need to debrief. There's going to be a lot of questions. I have some too, Joseph said. Carr nodded. We'll try to answer them. But you should know, your names are already being passed around in the higher circles. You two might have just prevented the next war. Anna glanced at Joseph. Or started the hardest conversation Earth's ever had. That night, they sat around a makeshift fire while the soldiers kept a respectful distance. Carr's team had already begun scanning the Trident from the outside, but they weren't going in, not without clearance and maybe not ever. Joseph told them what they needed to know. What mattered. What shouldn't be hidden anymore. The truth. About the experiments. The first hybrids. The lies buried with the old defense files. The colony the enemy built. The message they left behind. And most importantly, the choice that was made. Not to fire. Not to fight. But to understand. When morning came, the desert looked like any other place on Earth. Quiet. Untouched. As if nothing had happened. The wind carried dust and silence and the promise of another day. Anna leaned against the hood of a transport vehicle, sipping lukewarm coffee. Joseph joined her, holding a datapad. He was rewatching the transmission from the Odyssey. She said they made a mistake, he murmured. Anna nodded. We all did. But we can fix it. He looked over at her, smiling faintly. Do you think they'll come back? They already did. And we didn't fire. That's something. He looked toward the Trident again. What if something else wakes up? One of the other buried projects. Then we face it. Together. She took his hand. For a long moment they didn't speak. The Earth turned quietly. And in that stillness there was a kind of peace, not perfect but earned. Later that week the Trident was resealed. Covered. Hidden again but not forgotten. Joseph made sure of that. A beacon was placed nearby, not to call reinforcements but to serve as a reminder that even in the shadow of future war, humanity had chosen something better. As for Joseph and Anna, they didn't go back to normal life. Normal didn't exist anymore. Instead, they worked with a growing team, scientists, historians, diplomats. People who wanted to understand the past so they could protect the future. They didn't erase the files. They shared them. And slowly the world began to listen. The news spread in layers, at first as rumor, then whispers, and finally reports from Earth's defense satellites confirming the unidentified retreat of hostile objects. But more importantly, something had changed in the tone of Earth's leadership. Not fear, but humility. One night, Joseph stood on a rooftop under the stars. Anna beside him. The sky clear. No enemy ships. Just Earth breathing. He whispered, "You think they're still watching?" She smiled. "I hope so." And somewhere, in the cold silence between stars, a signal pulsed faintly. Not a warning. Not a threat. Just a message. We remember. So do we. Begin again. The end.